Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and every now and then I basically hate these videos because in reality they're very hard to actually do and they can be very dangerous. So when you watch this video, I want to say one thing, and it's basically don't do what I do, okay? Don't believe what I'm saying here. Confirm for yourself and make sure this plan makes sense for you. Whenever I first started investing, if I would have listened exactly what Benjamin Graham said, I would never learn that basically he violated all his rules when he basically bought Geico. When you had, for example, John C. Bogle, which basically said, hey, index funds are the way to go, but then he went ahead and he bought into his son's hedge fund. It's like, okay, people can change their minds. And also Hackowicz or Malkowicz, he also went ahead and changed his portfolio layout. And also Warren Buffett said, I would never invest in something with tech, but then he went ahead and he bought into Apple and also IBM. People over time, they progress, investment plans, they change. So that's why you're probably wondering, Tommy, you have an entire course. Your entire thing is for the long term. So how could you possibly say you fell back into debt? The truth is, I didn't really fall back into debt. The answer was, I had this cash waiting because we did not know exactly what was gonna happen with the student loan debt and also like the business loan stuff. So the reality was, I set this cash aside to actually wait to actually find out finalized news if they're going to forgive it or if they're not going to forgive it. And now that we kind of have some very good and stable news saying not really going to happen, especially depending on your income and so on, now I find myself not being able to pay this stuff off because financially it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to break this down in this video. And there's one thing I really want to explain, that when you're investing for the long term, it's not just about the numbers, it's about the best financial plan for you that keeps you in the game the longest. So sometimes a lot less risk and you lose a little money is a lot better than taking on big risks and then not staying in the game when times get hard. So it's basically a very specific reason to why I'm keeping this debt, and in this video I'm gonna break this down. But again, remember, my name is Tommy, okay? I don't have a wife yet. I don't have any kids yet. My entire ideal life right now is just about maximizing capital and making as much money as I possibly can. So this idea makes a lot of sense for me right now. But for example, once I have a wife and I have a family, if God allows it, the answer is my mind might change. And that's why I'm educating you on why I'm making the decision, but it does not mean it's what I'm telling you to do. I still believe the long-term financial plan, financial freedom, the course I sell, link down below, that's still the best way to go, which is basically pay your debts first, save for emergencies, invest some money, buy a home, pay it off fast, and basically you're able to live financially free fairly quickly with very little risk. That's still the plan that I'm telling you is the best one out there, okay? So as you watch this video, do not do as I do if you do not understand why I'm basically doing it, and don't use excuses like saying I'm gonna maximize capital if you're basically risking your family's life, okay? That's not what you wanna do either. So now here's the story. Not many people know this, but my first business that I started, I actually started with a loan. It was $5,000. I got it from the student loan stuff. I grabbed that money, I maximized that business and turned that $5,000 into like $100,000 worth of money that I took out the business. And on top of that, I can't even tell you how much cash flow I actually got from the business. So overall, it was a lot more than $100,000, okay, which is great. And that story always sounds so inspiring. But what people also don't know is that during this time, I also got into around $13,000 worth of credit card debt to make basically a lot of money. And I realized that what I actually got was very lucky. And I could not sleep at night because I would always say, I have 18 months to pay off this money, or else I'm gonna be charged interest, like 25%. I gotta figure it out to basically maximize all this money very fast and pay it off quickly in 18 months because that was basically promotional balance. Now, things went well for me. I paid off everything, I had a lot of money, great stuff, good story. But I realized that that type of game is not for me. Games where you have this massive deadline, a huge amount of debt, and also a lot of potential interest. So this debt that I basically have between, for example, student loan debt and also business loan, the average rate between both of them is about 4%. It's very low. Inflation is about like 3.5%. Right now is like 7% plus, but I'm not using that to justify anything. I'm gonna tell you later on in the video exactly why I'm making this decision. My point is, I know what leverage is. I know what borrowing money is like. I know what it's like to make a lot of money. I know what it's like to make a lot of risk. And I know what it's like to feel like, yo, I'm not not pretty sure about this, okay? But thankfully, everything has gone well so far. Shout out to God, okay? But it does not mean if I get back into those habits, I will not screw everything up. So remember, this debt is like less than 10% of my net worth, okay? It's not really like this massive blip of me having all of this money in leverage and debt and potentially running the risk of losing everything. That's not what this is whatsoever. Now, number two, guys, is I gotta tell you exactly why I'm willing to basically leverage out this money and why I'm basically not able to actually pay it off, even though I have the cash ready to deploy to pay it off in full. The first thing is this, guys, okay? This debt of about $50,000, so I'm basically rounding up to make sure like we're using normal numbers here, not crazy numbers. This pays about $354 for the first 10 years. After that, one of the debts will be canceled out, and then all I have to continue paying is $134 for the next 20 years. This is per month, by the way. I know this sounds like, Tommy, this is 30 years worth of you worrying about paying this stuff off. Isn't it annoying? Doesn't it make you worry about this stuff? Like, where are you gonna be in 30 years? The answer is, I'm gonna tell you exactly how this is gonna work and why, if I were to pay this, it would cause me to lose sleep, because financially, it's just a disaster in my current situation. And that's what I want you guys to understand. That's why I'm telling you, don't do this stuff unless it makes sense for you, okay? But overall, in the first 10 years, this debt is gonna cost me somewhere about $42,480 worth of cash flow, or just payments overall. So in the first 10 years, I'm paying about $42,480. In the later 20 years, I'm paying about $16,080. That's actual cash flow. Once you add up those two numbers, you're looking at around $58,560. So that's the total amount of money I'm paying towards this debt in those 30 years. And in reality, in today's money, that would only be worth about like $27,000 once you adjust for inflation. I'm using 3% as inflation because I want to use normal numbers, not, for example, high numbers that we're seeing right now. Now, this basically means this, guys, okay? Tommy, why? Why are you willing to pay basically almost like $8,000 more than the debt is actually worth? You can just pay it off right now and be done with it. The answer is very simple. If I were to go ahead, and by the way, this is where we get into comparison, okay? We compare what happens if I invest $50,000 today in the stock market and it earns me 11% versus what happens if I just, for example, pay off this debt and invest, for example, what I would have been paying in cash flow towards it and just basically invest it. And the answer is, it's not as different or as extreme, but it is extreme enough to actually make me worry. And here's the first thing, guys, okay? If I were to invest right now $50,000, which is what I'm thinking about doing, and basically leaving that money there into the S&P 500 for those 30 years at 11%, I'm looking to make around $1.14 million. Now, you might say, Tommy, that's a lot of money. I'm thinking this makes sense, okay? But in reality, if I were to invest, for example, that cash flow of $354, 11% for the first 10 years, that would be around $78,848 and 95 cents, okay? The first 10 years. Now, if I grab that amount and basically kept it invested and just kept investing, for example, the other payments of $134 for the other 20 years, well, I would have somewhere about $750,299.50 over 15 cents over the 30 years completely. That basically gives me a difference of about $400,000. And that's why it's so extreme, it's so much money, and it's like, I don't think this makes sense for me to actually go ahead and pay this debt and basically forfeit all this money, okay? That's the idea. And the big forfeit is $50K today might not seem like a big deal, but $400,000 is a good deal, okay? It's a big deal of money. Even when you adjust for inflation, it's still gonna be a good chunk of money I could use for something else later on, or just let the money compound and so on, you know what I mean? So now, here's what I want you guys to think about, okay? Because not every single decision is going to be a mathematical decision. It might be a peace decision. And I'm not telling you, for example, I'm telling you right now, Tommy, this Tommy is saying this is probably the best way to go. But I'm not telling you that maybe when I'm married, once I have kids and so on, I might say, you know what, let's just pay that off because my wife might not like it and it just might be a little extreme, okay? It all depends. I'm very flexible on this stuff, okay? It's not just about money. Peace also matters a lot. Now, here's the deal. Worst case scenario, let's say I were to lose all of my income, right? I don't have a job anymore, something happened, broke a leg, whatever. Now, what I've done to kind of make myself a lot more comfortable with this is basically, I set aside 12 months worth of these debt payments, which basically means for 12 months, I can still afford to keep making those payments. Then on top of that, I also have 12 months worth of emergency funds, which obviously also include that. So you're looking at more like 24 months or 2 years worth of making these payments. And again, it's about $354 or so on. So it's 2 years worth of those payments. Boom, that's taken care of. Then on top of that, the reason I have so much confidence in this stuff is basically because I also have enough passive income to be able to cover it about 3 to 4 times. Like using the minimal amount of money I can take out without losing my capital, which is actually gives me a lot of confidence. Like 3 to 4 times be able to pay that thing off without really worrying about it and have somebody else actually do it for me. And then the last part is I've done everything else in the plan. I basically already have a 24-month emergency fund, which, well, 12 months actually, but I'm talking about like the actual payment stuff. But I have 12 months worth of emergencies. I have, for example, a good chunk of money in my investment fund, which provides for me enough money to basically pay the stuff off 3 times over. And then on top of that, I also have a paid off home, which is also a big deal. And my expenses are about like $1,000 a month. And if you add this in, you're looking at $1,354 for current Tommy, okay? Once I'm married, have kids, if God allows it, the answer is things might look a lot different. But the answer is, because this is such a minimal amount of money, it makes no sense for me to go ahead and pay it right now. And that's the idea. So that's why I'm making this decision. But I'm saying, for example, I still believe that the best strategy is going to be, for example, what the Financial Freedom Course says, which is, hey, you go ahead, eliminate debt, you save for emergencies, you start investing 10, 20% of your money, you pay off a home as fast as possible, and then you're solid. You're good to go. That takes about 10 to 15 years. The only reason I'm doing this, again, is because I have enough money to cover it for 2 years, basically. I have money to basically cover my expenses. I have a very low cost of living. I also have a paid off home, and I have enough investments to basically pay them over 3 times. That's not ordinary, and that's not normal. Basically saying what I have is such a massive safety net. And again, this is such a small percentage of my net worth, and that's why I'm basically doing it, okay? But if this was, for example, a big number, let's say like a lot of money, like I would not do it. And you're probably wondering, Tommy, well, if you could borrow right now another $200,000 or $300,000, right, at 4% or 3% or 2%, would you do it in order to go ahead and maximize your investments? The answer is 100% no. Because again, it just makes no sense. This is a decision that I basically made a long time ago, right? Like I got the student loan when I was like 17 years old. I got the business loan when I was like, I think maybe like 23, 24 years old. No, 23, 20, maybe 21, 22 years old, okay? So these were decisions I made then that now I'm like, my concept has changed, but I also know a lot about business and investing and opportunity costs, and it just makes no sense for me to actually pay it off. You know, when I think about this, I think about Warren Buffett and how he had, for example, a house, and he had a mortgage for 30 years, and he paid it off when it was actually time to pay it off in the end, okay? So sometimes it makes no sense to pay these things like this, but I still own a home. And if you ask me, Tommy, would you go ahead and refinance your home and take that money out and put it in the market? The answer is no, because to me, that would not bring me peace, and that makes no sense. You see what I'm saying here? So again, it's a personal decision, and I'm sharing it with you guys because I want you guys to understand these ideas, and it might help you apply something to your life. But again, not all decisions are mathematical. And this decision I'm making right now is for current Tommy. But later Tommy, dad Tommy, husband Tommy, all this other stuff might say, hey, let's just pay this off and not worry about it, okay? Even though it's stupid to actually do. Mathematically stupid, okay? But I've done a lot of stupid stuff like buying a home in cash. Like that's stupid, like mathematically makes absolutely no sense. Like just doing index funds, okay? That's stupid too if I can make some more money somewhere else, right? So it just all depends on what you're actually trying to do, okay? That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, long-term team out. Link down below for that course. And again, you can also use a coupon, I think. I think the coupon is YouTube, and it gives you like a discount potentially. Yeah, that's basically it, guys. As always, long-term team out, long-term team out, long-term team out. Oh, comment down below out, so I know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Up here's another video. Over here's my Facebook, this is Rob. And as always, long-term team officially out. I said that like 15 times.